Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Arsenette. For probably 2 people in the room, has anybody ever heard of Rambling Rican? Okay, that's one. Okay, that's what I figured. Okay. I've actually been doing a Sasuke blog for 6 years now. I've been following Sasuke, Ninja Warrior, and everything that's tied in between the last 6 years. So before I start, who's here for this? I figured I'd get it out of the way now, you know. It's, obviously, this is not the guy you wanted to be here for. No, not him. It's this show. Okay, who has seen American Ninja Warrior? There you go.
I love that show.
Who has seen Ninja Warrior?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time.
Okay. Who has seen this? This is where I'm going to start. The way I'm going to do this is basically start from the beginning of when US started seeing any kind of, at least in this era, Japanese game shows. And obviously you're quite familiar with this, so that's good. The original was actually called Takeshi's Castle. I'm sure most of you at this point know, and actually this is where Wipeout came from. They got themselves sued, but yeah, they got it through Wipeout. So the original was named Takeshi's Castle. That actually started, let me see, that started 1986 to 1990. The Spike TV started 2003 to 2007. It's still going on strong now. Let's see, let me keep going. Takeshi's Castle actually had a specific castle, and the reason why I bring this up, this is where TBS is, and it's relevant to what I'm going to be saying. This is Tokyo. Haneda Airport is here. If you were to get on Narita Airport, it'd be around here somewhere, which is why it's $300 in a taxi if you tried going from that airport to downtown Tokyo. Mental note. So if you're going to Tokyo, have somebody pick you up in the airport. This is actually the site that Takeshi's Castle was made, right about here. Mental note on the word that you see here. Let me zoom that up, if you can see it.
Oh, wow.
Notice where the name is on. The building, not here. So when you see this, they named it after the TBS building.
That's awesome.
So the actual word means, Midori means green, and Yama means mountain. So when they say Mount Midoriyama, they're saying Mount Green, which I find hilarious. So again, TBS is the one that produces the show, and it has all the way from its inception. Actually produced both Takeshi's Castle and Sasuke. And actually, what a lot of people don't know, this is where all of the Takeshi's Castle MXC obstacles look like on the lot, which I always find a little fascinating. So you have, that's where the castle was. Actually, roller derby was down here. Sumo rings, gauntlet. It's all around the whole thing.
Where's sinkers and floaters? I'm trying to find.
Sinkers and
floaters.
floaters.
I see it there.
There you go.
There it is.
Where do they start when you say, like, get it on?
I believe.
That wall.
Yeah, I think it's down the bottom. Hang on. I lost track because not all of these are up at the same time. A lot of people think that it will be up for a while. They actually build it anywhere 10 to 15 days before. They record absolutely everything, and then they tear it right back down, because this is actually rented lot that TBS rents to everyone else, so you can actually rent the lot if you have money. So TBS, again, they've aired Death Note. Let's see, I'm going to see how many people can recognize some of the anime.
Bleed.
Yeah. I'm sorry? Okay. I figured most people would kind of go, huh? How about that?
Space Battleship.
Space Battleship Yamato. In fact, I used to run home from school to watch Star Blazers when I was 9 years old. So. And my favorite anime of all time. Yep. So Sasuke started in, let me see, what year was that? September 26, 1997. This was actually an offshoot of another show. And when it first started, it was indoors. It's only been indoors once. They used the exact same lot, exact same building that used for Sportsman #1. And I'll start off. Now this is the actual plans to the 21st tournament. And this is what it looks like when you're inside of it. So over here, actually there's where the tower would be. This is the entire first stage, second stage, third stage. So I'll go back a little bit more in depth in a second. This is what it looks like overhead. Yeah. So that's the tower, that's in the entire first stage. This is the gallery. All of this stuff is where they have like their catering and backwards and stuff. And then second stage is buried back here underneath the sign, and that's the third stage. That's the sideways view. This is actually from the 28th or 29th tournament. I guess it's the 28th. I'm going to just run through a couple of the iconic obstacles. This is the
Log grip drop.
log grip, yeah. Can you identify who that is? That's Gunpei Shiratori.
Oh. Yeah. Didn't help when he's turned away from the camera.
That's
warp wall, yeah.
Yep. That's been in, I don't know, 10 tournaments, 15 tournaments?
Since 5.
Since 5?
Since 5,
So,
yeah.
Okay, so it's been for 20 tournaments.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't scary enough, they now have 2. Okay, so that actually answers my question. How many have seen past the tournaments that were shown on G4? Wow, 2. Okay, good. So that makes me make sure that I actually hold a couple things back because I don't want to spoil you guys. There have been 3 tournaments since. They stopped at 27. That was now 3 years ago. Then 28, 29, and 30 will be airing in July.
Oh.
Well, they canceled it.
Nope.
Okay.
Wait, is it airing like on American TV or do we have
Nope.
to stream it?
No.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Embassy still
Yeah.
there.
I'll get to that in a moment. Jumping spider into the spider walk.
Yep.
And this is what the jump hang now looks like. This is the jump hang kai. You now have 2 cargo nets on each side. You can pick whichever you want so you're not married to one side or the other. As long as you get to it and go across. This is what the tournament looks like at night, which is cool. And this is second stage obstacle, I think the 3rd one, no, 4th, hello, 4. Spider wall. This has been used in several tournaments, so I'm actually happy to see that back. This is the double salmon ladder. It started off with the original salmon ladder in 19, morphed into that, and then morphed into this. This is a swap salmon ladder. In fact, you jump on one side, you see how these rungs are still up, you jump back across, turn around, these things will pop up, jump across, then the other one will pop out, and jump across, and you do that 3 more times, and then come over.
Mechanical failure would suck.
Yeah, the original thing was they wanted the bottom rungs to come back in, but that was the mechanical failure, so they said, okay, stands up. So the problem with that is that if they were, like you've seen before, where they would go sideways, that's considered a fail because you've technically gone out. So that's caused some issues in certain tournaments. And of course, the walls have actually evolved several times. And that just went higher for some reason. Okay.
And there's this.
That's the shin cliffhanger. That has evolved into this alternate
That's gone
cliffhanger.
now, I know that.
Oh, well.
And Now we
And
have
that's
this.
the crazy cliffhanger. So you go across that side and then you jump across. Ah, the fun you have missed in the last 3 years.
I've seen videos of that. That's insane.
Bringing this up for another reason. This was the spider flip in anywhere, it was what, 22 to 24?
It was like early
that's
20s,
right,
yeah.
And Nagano was the very first one to actually cross that. And it's significant for another reason I'll get to in a moment. Pipe slider, it's back. Yeah, pipe slider is a very interesting obstacle. So for those who are not familiar, you come from the end of that obstacle, land on here, grab onto the orange bar, and push your body forward all the way to the end, and hopefully make it to the mat. Okay, back to the original Sasuke, was created by Ushio Higuchi, who's done many shows. He actually started back in Takeshi's Castle, which is interesting. He's been in TBS for probably about 20 years. He started his own company, Monster 9, about halfway through Sasuke, which will become relevant shortly as well, and was directed by this guy, Masato Inui. He directed Sasuke 1 all the way to 14, took a break, and came back to revive 28, 29, and now 30. Okay, Muscle Ranking was the actual tournament, the main event where all of these other shows had come out from. You would have Komichi had come out from there, Sasuke had come out from there, you had Sportsman number 1, you had probably 15 to 20 different events that came out from this one show they called Muscle Ranking. Most people know it as Unbeatable Bansuke because the original name that they had, in fact they used Muscle Ranking for a very short time and then they changed it to Kiniku Bansuke. So the Americans took that, redid the entire show and picked out certain pieces and re-edited for the US market and brought that out in G4. Sportsman number 1, very dear to my heart. Never came here actually. This show was the very first one to come out before Bansuke even existed. They get the muscle part in there. It started off as an event where professional athletes would go up against professional athletes. You've had a lot of big names run through it. Actually had a significant cash prize and a car that you can win at the end. And let me see. Anyone know who this guy is? Very quiet. His name is Kane Kosugi. For those that have seen the first 8 tournaments, you probably recognize him. He was very big in Bansuke and Sportsman and Sasuke. In fact, a good portion of the merchandising was his name on it. And one thing that always has been frustrating me, and this is of course as a very hardcore Sasuke fan, he was the first American. And a lot of people didn't know that. Born and raised in Southern California, Japanese father, Chinese mother, didn't know a lick of Japanese. None. In fact, let me start my very first video. You're gonna have to forgive the quality of this one because to try to get the quality of this is very difficult.
385ポイント、ケイン・コスギ選手。芸能界最強の男、ケイン・コスギ。この伝説のコースセオにおける最高権威、元日の総合ナンバー1獲得。名実ともにトップアスリートの仲間入りを果たした。
That's called Monster Box, by the way. They just keep adding slots underneath to make it taller. Like the current record is 25 boxes, 24 boxes. This is 24. 25? Sammy Sosa, by the way. Michael Jordan's been this.
That if you do your best, and you never give up, anything's possible. I believe that more than ever now. I just want to thank everybody for giving me this chance. I'll never forget this day. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll get to that in a second. There we go. I think the reason why a lot of people always thought because of just how he looked. So when he got to the final in Sasuke 8, and when I hear Ninja Warrior say that there no American has ever been to the final, I cry. So, let me get this out of the way. What was that?
I legitimately think that, or
Yeah.
Haven't you corrected Alex on like many occasions?
Yeah. Though lately, and I've been happy to have been amending where they said no American has won all 4 stages, and that is correct. So at least I've noticed a slight change in how certain things are being said. So I appreciate that, but again, I'm a rabid hardcore fan, so I will be the one crying in a corner.
Do you train?
I'll join you.
No, just a fan.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can try to run through this as fast as I can, because I spent the entire 3 weeks trying to figure out how I'm going to shove this in an hour.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. Okay. Like I said, Kunoichi had been in this show as well. That was all part of Banzuke. And all of that ended in Sasuke 8, which was at that, when Kane Kosugi got to the final, where it was absolutely freaking boring. The important thing, and a lot of people just don't know about this, and I even learned this recently, a lot had changed up to Sasuke 8. During this time, this had happened. One of the obstacles in the Banzuke show, which basically, think Indiana Jones when you're running from the ball, they had a horrific accident. So imagine somebody, there's a water pit about yay there, slipping. And that boulder is how heavy? So they ended up in the hospital, intraction, messed up vertebrae. As a result, Banzuke was canceled.
Wow.
And if you can imagine, when Banzuke was canceled, what are you going to do about Sasuke? So, they canceled muscle ranking. And then this guy, Shingo Yamamoto, one of the All-Stars, and Kasumi Yamada, Mr. Ninja Warrior, well, Mr. Sasuke, but yeah, Mr. Ninja Warrior, those two got on the phone and talked to Masato Inui, the director, and said, don't cancel the show. They're like, well, Banzuke is done, so what are you going to do about that? And it's like, no, just have Sasuke all by itself. So after Sasuke 8, they took that license, moved away, and brought it to themselves, and created in a small little group, because they had lost Kane Kosugi at the same time. Small little group with the first champion, that's Kazuhiko Akiyama, and Toshihiro Takeda, which I call him Takeda because that is his actual name. But I'll say Takeda since most people recognize him that way. And then over time, they added this guy. And then finally, they added this guy. And then they created the Sasuke All-Stars and basically revitalized the show because the show was dead. So they reorganized absolutely everything because before that it was all Kane Kosugi from every possible commercial, all of the merchandising, everything. So they created the All-Stars, reorganized the show, and then went on. And that's a very rare photo, trying to find a photo of all 6 in the same one. In fact, the last time all 6 actually competed together was Sasuke 17 in 2006, and has never and will never happen again. So that brings us up to basically when G4 started coming around. But first, this is how I saw the show. In ESPN2, they had this show named Viking. In fact, it came right before Sumo, around 1 o'clock in the morning at one time. I'm channel flipping, it's 2006. I'm like, what is this crazy stuff going on? And I'll come back to that in a second. Now, you're gonna have to really...
No, that's the Cannonball.
Yeah, that's the Cannonball Run, so you recognize that.
Spin bridge, if you're gonna call it now.
Well, this is a really, really bad video, so you're gonna have to forgive me on that one.
Shipwreck in the middle of Tokyo Bay. The stage has been set to test the limits of the human body and spirit. If you're not strong enough, you will fail. If you're not smart enough, you're gone. Many will try. With all their strength and will, only a few will succeed when they face Viking, the ultimate obstacle course challenge.
In this show.
Dave, the first marine stage designed to weed out the field, and it usually does just that. It has a short time limit, 1 minute 50 seconds, 8 obstacles that test your strength, balance, and smarts. First up, you have to navigate the Odyssey, an 18-foot tilting circular platform. Next is the loading dock, where you must catch one 15-pound cargo bag and carry it across a narrow 25-foot-long plank, all while avoiding getting hit by other cargo bags. It doesn't always go so well. Then the castaway. Here you have to jump and grab a ball that's 6 feet in circumference and attach to a track and ride it over a 50-foot body of water. Then you have to let go just at the right time, or more often, not. Then the main deck. Here you must quickly choose either a large or narrow mast pole, creating a bridge and make it across safely. After that, the parley. This is a 4th grade level addition problem, but when the pressure's on, the answers often fall short. Really? Then the treacherous cannonball, where you must quickly and gently step across 4 large rotating spheres that are suspended 6 feet over a body of water.
That's where Spin Bridge came
Most
from.
people who make it this far in the course fail here, and failure
Notice how different
hurts.
they are, too.
Then you hit the swing mast, where you must throw a weighted rope over a beam suspended 20 feet in the air and swing 15 feet across another body of water. If the rope doesn't catch just right, down you go. The final challenge in the first marine stage, the captain's cabin, where you must climb the pegs of a rotating ship steering wheel that towers 20 feet in the air to stop the clock before it runs out. And if the course can't stop you, the clock can.
Now the Japanese version looked like this.
2005年、お台場に突如出現した巨大難破船。それは人類の限界に挑む空前絶後の最強バトルステージ。3月に行われた芸能界スペシャルでは、名うての肉体自慢が挑むもことごとく撃沈。まさに悪教官の地獄絵図。ファーストマリンステージを突破したのはわずか5人。その5人も迷宮の出口ははるか遠く。 セカンドアドベンチャーステ
That
ー
look
ジ
familiar?
第3エリアロープメイズまでで全ての挑戦者が阻まれる。だが今人類の逆襲が始まる。新たな伝説を刻むべく日本中の猛者が集結。その中にはあの男たちの姿も。
They look familiar.
予選会を勝ち上がってきたのはサスケでオールスターズと呼ばれる精鋭たち。
He was only 33. He's 42 now.
サスケのオールスターズっていうメンツにかけてなんとか
This was
クリア一
2005.
つ一つねクリアっていうか全部クリアしたいんですけどね。
己の限界を超えんとする熱き魂の持ち主が、そして各界を代表するトップアスリートが大いなる野望を胸にこの巨大な船に足を踏み入れる。
楽しみにしてます。
この前より実はしてたんで、いけるんじゃねえかなと思いますね。
さらに世界の最強戦士緊急参戦。アメリカ NFL のトップ選手が巨大要塞制圧に名乗りを上げた。
Definitely I'm gonna do great, represent the NFL in the United States, I'm gonna do great over there, I'm gonna do real good, proud. Minnesota Vikings.
強靭なる肉体を持たぬ者は去れ、培った英知を発揮できる者は消えよ。その身に秘めたポテンシャルを全て見定める。この海を制する真の英雄は果たして誰か。史上最大のフィールドアスレチックバイキング。
That looks familiar?
激闘をフィニッシュする。
That was called a heartbreaker. Okay. So like I
As a
said,
math teacher, I'm still insulted that people can miss that obstacle.
what's interesting is that each time they came up in either Viking or Sasuke or even American Ninja Warrior, they were all made of completely different things. Because the ones from American Ninja Warrior, they bounce. So not only does it spin, it bounces, in which case I go, ah! These, well, I guess what, cement?
That would hurt a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, I actually love this obstacle, so I think it's absolutely freaking cool. So this is where G4 came in. At this particular point in time, 2006 actually. In fact, let me see, let me switch that over. Yep, October 2006. And it started actually on this show. Does anybody remember Midnight Smack? Okay, so actually quite a few. That was the original logo. And thanks to him, he found it because I'm like, it's not the original logo. It's like, I found it. So once that started October, and then they had another tournament in November, and then December they showed, was it 17? 17. And during December was when they actually started the very first American Ninja Challenge. These were the first 3 that made it to the finals. And this is what Sasuke 20th.
20.
20. Yeah, so the number's going up to 2,000.
Yeah,
Represents
20th.
2,000 people.
I started in 2008 during this time period. In fact, my very first blog was Sasuke 20. And over time, as you can tell, I'm an all-star fan. So it just kept getting more and more progressive, and this is what the current one looks like. Yes. So it's in 2008 when I started blogging. It started off as basically a lark. It was like, go ahead and watch it and start writing it. And the first thing that I did was pay attention to all the guys. Because I laugh as my husband's sitting right there. So I got it on the tail end. The show actually lasted about 210 episodes, I believe. Maybe incorrect on that. 200 plus episodes. Used to run on Sunday night, 12:30 in the morning. So around noontime for me, I would start blogging about it. It was a half-hour show that used to fill in between all the tournaments, and they had everything from behind the scenes to just little gag reels and whatever. It only lasted about half an hour. And only people in the Kanto region, which is basically the area around Tokyo, would be able to see it. So it was localized. It's like saying, you know, New York City area was only watching it. And we were introduced to this guy, which I always find interesting because of just the timing on when I started blogging to the timing when this crew started coming in. His very first time that he was on the show, he had beaten the All-Stars in a festival. It was called Bug and Nikki. In fact, it was in the hometown of where Kasumi Yamada is. And a whole bunch of all the guys that trained together and, you know, all the hopefuls that would come in. And they would go to all these different festivals around Japan that some of the All-Stars would start. And they beat him. Like, all the All-Stars actually failed these obstacles. And so that was how he was invited to the show. Immediately after that, they had a Sasuke trial that was aired all through the summer of 2008. And you started seeing these guys with these t-shirts. And I couldn't figure out what the t-shirts were. This guy is actually the finalist.
Is that Rio?
That's Rio. Notice how young he is. So this entire group all came in. In fact, for anybody that's been following my blog, I used to know him as the lucky bastard that got Bunpei Shiratori to speak at his wedding. So, in a lot of ways, that's the only way that most people really knew who he was. All these different guys coming in, they were always in a little group. And so I always liked the camaraderie because half of the fun of watching Ninja Warrior in general is seeing the struggle of all the guys going through trials and not making it, who got invited, who didn't get invited. And so half of it is just going through the trial process. So I fell in love with these guys. So all these little t-shirts were this, Unlimited Clifford. If you notice, Urushihara was the third member and Rio was the second. So even to this day, they're considered Clifford number 2, Clifford number 3. Now finally, we have all 5 that have actually competed in Sasuke at least once. This guy was also in there. Asa.
The spaz.
The spaz. And so that's Koji Hashimoto, if you didn't recognize him so young. Also a finalist. And this was the group that had gone in through those trials to Sasuke 21. So during that time period, you would have actually an increase of basically promotion of Sasuke between the tournaments. So they would go to the different, and this was the Meguro Festival every year, the Tuna Festival in Kagoshima, Japan, the southern end that Nagano will host every year. And, you know, just it actually became bigger as time went on. So you would have more and more of these people having a chance to talk to the All-Stars and all the new stars. And during this time, a very interesting thing happened. Kunoichi hosted a lot of people from Muscle Musical. And in Muscle Musical, they had a very, very ugly split. So as a result, when you had half of the people leave Muscle Musical, you had Kunoichi directly affected. So that's why there was a 2-year break between the 7th and the 8th tournament, because they had lost Ayako Miyake. So I'll get to that in a second. So this is where Ninja Warrior comes in. They've now, at this point, it was that March? Yeah, March 7 was when they finally got to prime time, and this is, they rebranded everything and everything looked that way. And they started sending people from American Ninja Challenge. At this point, they were still voted, and then they had some small trials, so you can tell the evolution of G4 by this point. Yep, that's Brian, Mark Whitmer, Levi Muenberg, and Lucy Romberg. This was 22. No, yeah, it is 22. Yeah, it is 22. After a while, they all mixed together in my head. And everyone remembers Kevin Pereira.
Those two actually ran it too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did run it.
They only got as far as the circle hammer.
Yeah. So there was a lot of camaraderie between all of the. In fact, this is Li and Chi from Taiwan. Between the Americans and the rest of the Sasuke tournament competitors. And over time, it just got larger and larger and larger. And then at that point, that's when they split off and said, all right, we're going to do a big trials. And that's where American Ninja Warrior started, which is technically ANW 5. Sorry, ANC 5, as far as I'm concerned. So ANW 1 was the 5th of those events in my head. So ANW 2, the stars that come over. So at this point you have Yuji, Nagano, and Okuyama, who would later actually become a finalist. And they went over to Venice Beach, and they had a signing, and you can walk up to them if you ever wanted to. Not a single charge. They loved it.
Wow.
In fact, they ran that course. All three of them ran that course. So around that time, you had Muscle Park, which was in Tokyo. It's a very small park, but it was inside of Odaiba, which is a man-made amusement center, shoved inside of what a mall and basically the size of Chuck E. Cheese. But it was very, very popular, and so people would walk up and it's like, there was a Sasuke course. They had a cliffhanger, they had the salmon ladder. It was like about 4 or 5 obstacles that rotated over time. And they celebrated their 3rd anniversary and then promptly shut down. But then they replaced it. Actually, this is when they were still promoting. In fact, that was the 3rd anniversary. Notice who these guys are. They actually used to go to every single event, wherever anything Sasuke showed up. And yes, that's Rio in the middle. So that's where it in. So this place had shut down. And then Higuchi had announced one in Sendai, Japan. That only lasted a year. So at this point, there's red flags going. So you had the Muscle Musical split, and then you had the 2 things closing. So I just kind of ignored that for a while, and of course I was considered a conspiracy theorist, because each time I kept thinking, the tournaments are getting further and further apart, something's going on. And then this finally happened. They had built the Muscle Musical theater, where they were basically trying to make the show more like Cirque du Soleil. Built an entire arena. And they had a situation where you had the crux of the group, because you had Iketani, you had Ayako Miyake, who's the 3-time Kunoichi champion. They were at odds with each other. They had 2 separate groups where you had the original people that wanted to stay with the original choreographer, and then you had other ones that wanted to try something different because they were tired of doing the same thing over. And you had a huge split. So you had the guys that stayed in Muscle Musical, and then you had the guys that stayed at Padma. And the reason why it's important is that at one point, in fact, they had gone to Las Vegas as well. The Muscle Musical had split and actually gone to Las Vegas for about 3 years, about 2-3 years. Then the straw that broke the camel's back. They condemned the building. They had a fire code. The fire inspector had come in, and they had to basically demolish the entire building because they had so many problems with it. So that's where the last of the money went. And so keep that in mind. This is when NBC comes in. So you have the huge rise in international, and it's getting famous around the world, and then you have all these struggles back at home. So American Ninja Warrior decided to, was it ANW 3? It premiered NBC. Yes, 3.
Yeah. That's right.
That's when we started noticing a difference. instead of having the stars over, they just brought their clothes. So I remember that very distinctly. And that was for Sasuke 27. Yes, 7. And as a nerd rage for me, this was at Sasuke. As far as I'm concerned, it wasn't the exact same tournament. So you had these 10, which are freaking awesome. I cheered every single one of them that had gone in. So you had those 10 come in from their own long trial process to get to Sasuke 27. And that's all they showed in NBC. Although there's a Japanese person right there. That's Morimoto. So that's where the nerd rage, that's where the split between the hardcore Sasuke fan and the hardcore ANW because of this tournament. So here they were showing the results of the 10, down to 9, down to 4. There were 90 other people in that tournament that people keep forgetting about. They weren't there alone, but that's what they showed.
Who the hell is he?
That's a metaphor, aren't you? So I always found it interesting because they didn't record who was down here. It's like, gotta love the camera angles. And that's what we saw on NBC. This is what Sasuke and TBS had shown. They had numbers, bro. Every single one of them had numbers. So in the second stage, this is what they showed. There's 5. There's 4. There's a number 6. There's another 6. There's another 6. There were 27 clears in Sasuke 27, even though NBC showed
9.
Right. That's what the second stage looked like. Notice a big difference? Ninja Warrior version did the unthinkable. Deleted all of the Americans. What people keep forgetting, and the reason why I don't think a lot of people understood the furor, this gets sent to 150 countries. So as far as they're concerned, the Americans don't even exist. I would have killed to see them all together at the same time. Why not? So what they did, they reordered everything according to the time as opposed to the order that they ran. Because if they put it in the order that they ran, you'd notice the gap. But if you order by the time, you don't have to worry about that. He was number 100 on that one. Another thing, Sasuke 27, when you see the Ninja Warrior 27, he wasn't the last person to run, he was number 1. In fact, that was a big thing because they gave him the honor of starting the tournament. And if anybody knows anything about running the first, you don't get the benefit of watching everybody else fail in front of you and you go, oh no, I'm not going to be doing that anymore, that kind of thing. So I always thought that was very interesting, and that's what it looked like with David going through. And third stage, that's how many people were in the third stage. Yeah, same tournament. In fact, you can see they all ran in order. In fact, that's when Rio ended up making it to the final. And that was how they showed. Yeah. And that was Nagano reacting to David falling. He's very close to him. He really, really likes him. And that's who the 2 finalists were. And if you notice, this is the TBS broadcast. They showed the Americans cheering for them because they were there for the whole thing. So as a reminder, you have the first and the second and the third winners, and one that did it twice. These are the 3 champions still. And my favorite, Clifford number 3. Yeah, the bankruptcy. Monster 9 decided, I can't do this anymore, and filed for bankruptcy. And that's where most people thought that Ninja Warrior had died. In fact, for about 1.5 years, we all thought that it died. And then he got on the phone with this guy, right there, the director of Sasuke, And after several tense negotiations and a whole bunch of hell no's, he decided that he was going to take the tournament again. And if anybody knows anything about real escape television, he's the director. So this is now the new tournament name, Sasuke Rising. Because, sorry.
Because you can.
Because I can. What the director ended up doing was, I'm going to take the tournament, but I have several conditions. Number one, we're retiring the All-Stars. I don't care what you want. We're retiring the All-Stars. He wanted to basically put a wrecking ball and reboot the entire show. So he went through a whole thing in Sasuke 28, renamed it Rising because you're rising from the ashes of the bankruptcy and the show basically being dead. And that's what the new moniker starts and what it looks like. So they brought in all the older guys and all the newer guys and tried to make a big transition between the two shows. So that was actually Akiyama's last tournament because he's now officially retired. And that's what Nagano's last tournament was supposed to look like. That's Inui. You can send his hate mail to him. I'm sure he doesn't like that. And that's actually the producer, Kikuno. So during that time, you had a whole bunch of people trying to do as many events to try to tell everybody, Sasuke's not dead, please come back. So this was actually an event in Sendai with a lot of the new stars. So this is what the new moniker looks like. And they introduced the water obstacle. Thank you much. They introduced the water obstacle, which caused lots of stir. So since like 95% of you, I'll do the nice thing and not actually spoil what those things look like. So they also introduced what we call the room. They had only for one tournament where you had basically everybody in the room watching the tournament, and you would have like the little box at the bottom of them watching the tournament. Yeah, it drove me insane. Yeah, only lasted for one tournament, thank God. And it's funny that you brought that up from this morning. This is Mika Izumi. She's now known as Mika Watanabe. She's the first person to ever pass the warp wall. First woman. Yeah, first woman to ever pass the warp wall. She did it in Sasuke 13 Trials. But the difference from Monday is that Casey?
Yes.
Yeah, Casey actually passed the first stage. The actual stage. Like, she never actually completed it. She finished the wall and timed out at the top of the wall because there was still one more obstacle.
Right.
So that's the difference. So when I heard it the second time around, because what they said in today's show was different, where there was nobody's ever passed the warp wall, and I'm lighting a candle for her. She's a Kunoichi finalist, and she was one of the all-stars in Kunoichi. So it was a very big deal for me, and I had a nice little hissy fit online. But they did change that, and they said, and she's the first woman, Casey's the first woman to ever pass a trials, which was absolutely correct. Yeah.
Actually, wait. Even technically, that would be wrong, because there was all the way back in the second Sasuke tournament when it was in its infancy.
There was no wall there.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, there was no wall at the time, but there was a woman that cleared stage 1 of the Sasuke tournament. It was the only woman to do so.
Yeah. At this point. Yeah. At this point, I had a lot of enough to talk about. So, where this shirt comes from, Sasuke's actually expanding worldwide. And that's actually Zai Yehudi. She's from Malaysia. And she created a very, very nice show. Oh, before we get there, ANW 5. Yes, 5.
Yes.
You had the USA versus Japan.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that didn't actually happen, did it?
No, it did. It did.
It
aired in NBC in January.
I thought it was November.
I like to dream that it
No, it happened.
We can agree and disagree on whether or not it was but it was a show that was aired on NBC. It actually was taped the Sunday after the ANW 5 finals. So the finals were on Friday and Saturday, and then this was recorded on this Sunday. It wasn't shown until another 6 or 7 months later. But yeah, this is when that was the Japan team, that was the USA team, and Japan lost. Still, I like all of them because half of them was known for quite a while.
Crush, I was shocked. I thought it was going to be a lot closer.
So this is the new moniker, and you notice that they actually have little Japanese flags because that was actually a tournament that they were using as a trials for a new event that I'm going to be showing up shortly. And yes, Shingo just couldn't help it, and he came back along with Nagano and Takeda. On the actual TBS site, they have the entire interview with the English subtitles if you wanted to know. I thought this was hilarious.
Why was he being accused of being a chicken?
Well, because of he balked on the wall in 28, like he stopped after he realized that he couldn't, his wife wanted to continue going until the timer had stopped.
Oh, okay.
So she called him a chicken. No, keep going to the end. So that's what he vowed to do. So in 29, they had a very dramatic opening to Sasuke 29 where they had the Japanese flag because again, it was supposed to be a trials for the ASEAN Cup. As you can tell, drama. And then new star was born. This is Yusuke Morimoto, which is actually what, his 10th tournament at that point? Just about. And spoilers, he's the first man to clear the crazy cliffhanger.
That clip I've seen.
Yeah. And that's the vertical limit. Made it all the way to the pipe slider and just missed the mat. So they all went as a team to Malaysia. And that's the two creators. He's actually from the Netherlands. That's Perry. And anybody that doesn't understand this joke, Dragon Ball Z. That was Ryan Stratus and Makoto Nagano. That's Asa. So this is them. They had competed individually and they competed as a team. And as you can notice, a couple of these things are from Sportsman #1. Kane Kosugi. Anybody recognize him? That's Drew Dreshel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't he win everything?
He won everything. He won every single individual event, and he was part of the winning USA team. So, and by a lot. So, they won the gold medal, and he won individually 4 times. So, I loved it because this event, it was a very small event. There were about 150 people, about-ish. Ish. 100 plus. I thought this was actually really cool. That was on Instagram. I was so happy. In fact, that was Ryan that had posted it. It was probably one of the best pictures I've ever seen. That was Team Taiwan. They ended up in 4th. And then they all did a whole bunch of selfies. I can go for a while about how many pictures there were. All of that is actually on my blog. And I love this picture for several reasons. A lot of it had to do with Nagano and Rio. It's basically the passing of the torch. You know, so they're slowly but surely going, yeah, 5 minutes, okay. So I'm just speeding this up. Yeah, it's Nagano. So basically this is the current tournament, Sasuke 30. And rare view, this is actually from the 3rd stage. The director took that. So if you were a competitor, this is what you would look at. And that's the current lit up final. And Gunpei Shiratori will be back for his final tournament. Yep. And that's the airing date, which is July 3rd. And I'll be up at 6 o'clock in the morning watching streaming. And that's it. I just squeaked that in.